If you're trying to conceive or simply want to boost your fertility, if you're trying or you're thinking about trying, your diet plays a huge role in your reproductive health. Today, I'm going to go over foods, like groups of foods that you should really try to limit or avoid altogether if you want to improve your fertility and your reproductive health through nutrition. I'm Dr. Lora Shahine. I'm a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist, helping people build their families for over 20 years. And I know access to fertility treatments is amazing, IVF, intrauterine inseminations, but it's not just about that. You can improve your overall health, whether you're trying to conceive without intervention or improve chances of success if you are doing fertility treatment, if you focus on lifestyle optimization. I've got a whole playlist on YouTube where I talk about sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and more, because I know that that is looking at the whole picture, and I'm trying to help people in any way that I can. I love educating. There's two other ways to get in touch with me, to get information from me. Number one, sign up for my weekly newsletter where you get educational content and things that I recommend. And number two is my weekly podcast. Is have a playlist on YouTube. You can listen anywhere you listen to your podcasts, because I love educating and I want you to find this information in the way that it's easiest for you. So today we're going to focus on nutrition and specifically foods and groups of foods that you should avoid in order to improve your reproductive health. Let's get started. Now, the four groups of food that we're going to go over that I want you to try to avoid, and I'm going to go through the evidence and I'm going to go through some substitutions that could be helpful, but these are the four things that we're going to talk about. Number one, fast food. Number two, foods with high levels of trans fats. Number three, foods with high glycemic index. And number four, foods that are high in animal protein. Before we get into it, I just want to review a little bit. Now, I am not an all or nothing person. I think everything in moderation, but I just want to do a little bit of a trigger warning because I could mention things that you truly enjoy. And I could mention things that kind of say, oh my gosh, well, I just want to enjoy that every once in a while. I don't want to feel like I'm being a bad person or that I don't want to have a baby because I happen to have fast food every once in a while. Listen, it's talking about overall making healthier choices and understanding the evidence behind kind of these, trans fats or animal protein. But oh my goodness, this isn't meant to make anyone feel shame or to completely eliminate things from their diet that they might enjoy. It's just learning and understanding the evidence so that you might make overall healthy choices if you're looking for ways to improve your overall health and well-being. I have some other videos here, like an overall of nutrition and fertility, and another video talking about foods that improve fertility if you're trying to look for substitutions. But this video is going to be all about these four groups of foods to think about decreasing in your diet in order to improve your reproductive health. So first up, let's talk about fast food. Listen, fast food is everywhere. It's a part of American culture for sure. And man, it tastes good. It tastes good because it's full of salt, it's full of sugar, and it's full of chemicals that are actually tailored to our taste buds to make it taste good. And so enjoying it every once in a while is okay, but you should understand the studies that show that diets high in fast food can be associated with female factor infertility, male factor infertility, and more, all about your reproductive health. One study in particular, published in 2018 in the Human Reproductive Journal, looked at diets high in fast food and time to conception. This is a part of the SCOPE trial, which looked at over 5,000, it was over 5,500 women trying to conceive, to conception, and looking at their diet and nutrition intake during that time. And the more fast food that people ate, the longer it took for them to get pregnant. One way of looking at the data, I'm going to read this to you, is compared to women who ate fast food more than 4 times in a week, women who ate it 2 to 4 times in a week had an 18% lower risk of infertility. Women who ate it 0 to 2 times a week had a 34% lower risk of infertility. And women who ate no fast food during the time to conception had a 41% lower risk of infertility. And infertility is defined as taking longer to conceive in that conception period. This was statistically significant with a p-value of less than 0.001. What about sperm and fast food? Short answer, not good. There's an excellent review of male factor fertility and nutrition that looks at a lot of different factors, summarize a lot of different primary studies to kind of put it all together. And putting all the data together over 2 decades of looking at this research showed that diets high in ultra processed foods were associated with poor sperm parameters, poor count, poor motility, poor morphology, higher DNA fragmentation, and a longer time to conception. So why is fast food associated with poor reproductive health? There's several theories that explain the evidence that we see, and I can think of 4. Theory number 1, the more you process the food, the less nutrients you're going to receive from that food. So fast food is fantastic. It tastes great. It's filling you up, it's giving you calories, but the ultra processing of food can eliminate some of the direct benefits we can get from nutrients, vitamins, elements in the food compared to food that has not been so processed. Theory number 2, there are lots of chemicals that can be found in fast food, and these chemicals can improve the taste and the experience that you get from eating fast food. But these chemicals can also be endocrine disruptors that can affect your hormone health, your reproductive health on a cellular level. I have lots of information on endocrine disruptors and its impact on reproductive health in my playlist on YouTube, looking at BPA, phthalates, parabens, lots of these even long-acting endocrine disruptors can be found in fast food. That goes into theory number 3. The packaging of fast food can be full of microplastics and other endocrine disruptors. The longer that food is sitting in the fast food containers, the more your food is picking up these endocrine disruptors, and then you're ingesting it through the food. And finally, theory number 4 is just the high sugar content, the high spikes, the high glycemic index of these fast foods spikes your insulin, spikes your blood sugar so that you crash, and it really is throwing off a lot of your metabolism. So fast food, it fills a void. Sometimes it's a road trip, or you just need something fast and it tastes great. But diets high in fast food can decrease our reproductive health. Topic number 2, foods that are high in trans fats have been shown to decrease our fertility. Trans fats are in a lot of foods that we eat, especially a lot of packaged foods. They are created by the food industry by processing liquid oils into a more solid form in a process called hydrogenation. This process increases the shelf life of the food. It allows the food to sit on a shelf and in the packaging and still taste good after it's been there for a long time and it's not as fresh. This process can even enhance the flavor of the food. But these trans fats are hard for our body to process. They can be found in packaged baked goods, margarine, some crackers, many bottled salad dressings, fried foods, some granola bars, some cereal. So a lot of things that you can buy at the grocery store that are pre-packaged will be full of trans fats. A large study that really highlights this finding was the Nurses' Health Study. This was over decades of following over 17,000 women and following them for many lifestyle things that they were doing. And one aspect of the Nurses' Health Study showed that diets high in trans fats were associated with more irregular ovulation, irregular menstrual cycles, and a longer time to conception. Other interesting studies looking at diet and risk and symptoms from endometriosis show that women who have diets high in trans fats have more symptomatic endometriosis. And endometriosis is a chronic inflammatory condition that is associated with pain with periods, pain with intercourse, and oftentimes infertility or difficult conceiving. So paying attention to the inflammatory process of these trans fats and symptoms of endometriosis is an interesting connection and something to pay attention to. What about male factor fertility and trans fats? Well, the studies show it's not good. An excellent review of male factor fertility and nutrition, again, looked over 2 decades of data and found that high trans fats diets can be associated with poor sperm parameters and longer time to conception. Lots of theories as to why this is happening, but trans fats are associated with more inflammation in the cells in our body. And eggs and sperm are some fast turnover cells. So the lower inflammation, the lower oxidative stress as these cells are working, then the higher chance of them doing what they need to do. I know that's really, really simplified, but I want to kind of explain a little bit, not just show the evidence showing trans fats are associated with poor reproductive health. I want you to understand a little bit about why. Topic number 3, what about foods with high glycemic index? Well, what are these foods? So these foods are usually with refined sugars or refined flour, refined carbohydrates that taste so good. But they spike our insulin, they spike our blood sugar levels. So we get this great kind of, spike, and then we kind of crash. And sometimes that leaves us wanting for more. It's these spikes of insulin, spikes of inflammation that can be associated with reproductive health issues. Examples include white bread, white rice, some sugary cereals, some instant oatmeal, corn, and soda. So these are just some examples, but I want you to kind of understand exactly what is going on. If you're curious about the glycemic index of individual foods, there's an excellent link and resource from Harvard Health. Just says resource of glycemic index of food by Harvard Health. You can put that in a search engine, or I can make sure and put a link in the description below. Last but not least, what about foods with high content of animal protein? Listen, we are all talking about protein these days. It seems like protein is really important for our overall health and well-being, but you can get protein from animal protein or vegetable protein and other plant protein sources. And so when you're choosing your protein, it's important to think about where you're getting it from. And listen, you can absolutely love your steak and chicken and animal proteins, but it is important to realize that there is some evidence that diets with high levels of animal protein as the source for your protein can be associated with poor reproductive health. That Nurses' Health study that I mentioned earlier, again, looking at over decades of nutritional intake for over 17,000 women and looking at lots of different parts of their health, including reproductive health, showed that a higher percentage of animal protein as the source for your protein is associated, again, with irregular ovulation, irregular menstrual periods, and a longer time to conception. One statistic to share from the study is that women who had at least 5% of their total protein intake from vegetable protein had a 50% lower risk of ovulatory dysfunction or irregular periods. So more veggies is associated with more regular cycles and more optimal timing for ovulation. That is just one statistic to share. It's just very interesting. When you're looking for protein sources, try to increase the amount that's coming from vegetables compared to animals. And also looking at endometriosis. Again, the study is looking at inflammation, endometriosis, fertility. Symptoms from endometriosis have shown that higher animal protein in your diet can be associated with more symptomatic endometriosis. Again, just pulling a lot of information together. I'm not telling you to completely cut out the things that you love, but when you're just choosing diets and choosing protein resources, try to think about adding more vegetables while you still might enjoy some of the animal protein that you love. But what about sperm? What about male factor fertility and animal protein? Well, again, not good. Some studies have shown that high levels of processed meats, and specifically red meat, has been associated with poor sperm parameters. I'm glad you stuck around to the end. I'm going to give you some substitutions and some ideas to improve your diet for your reproductive health. Let's recap first. Diets high in glycemic index foods, trans fats, animal proteins, and fast food can be associated with poor reproductive health. So what can you do? Got 4 ideas for you. Number 1, try and limit fast food. Try to cook more at home. Number 2, instead of foods with high glycemic index, you can substitute for foods with lower glycemic index. So you can try, instead of white bread, you can try more whole grain breads with darker grains. Instead of white rice, you can have brown rice. Now, I don't want to eliminate carbs or things that you enjoy, but you could think about substituting every once in a while some of the refined sugars or the refined flours or refined grains to more whole grains so you can improve the benefit from your food as opposed to the high glycemic index. And remember that Harvard Health glycemic index resource that I shared with you. Number 3, think about increasing protein from vegetables as opposed to a meat or animal protein heavy diet. Doesn't mean you have to eliminate animal proteins. Just try to find a way to improve your sources of protein from vegetables like lentils, nuts, and beans. Number 4, decreasing exposure to trans fats. You could do that by having less packaged foods, more fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet. Again, every once in a while, you are going to enjoy fast food or some food with high trans fats, but now you are more knowledgeable. You've learned about groups of foods that the evidence has shown if you have a diet high in these things can decrease your reproductive health. I hope it is educational and informative. Please like this video if you learned something, comment with questions that you have. Be sure and subscribe to this channel so you get my weekly video. And until next week, wishing you love, luck, and pineapples.